Welcome back to the Middle of Culture. I am one of your co-hosts, Peter.
And I am your other host, Eden.
Eden, how are you?
You know, it's been a real rough week at work the last couple of weeks, but I'm here. The holidays are coming up. I'm gonna hopefully have a chance to just relax and not think about things too much. How about you?
I am doing okay. Made it through my 10-day stint of call and now am starting some vacation myself off the week. And so get a little bit of a break and, just kind of hopefully the same, chill a little bit. I do kind of secretly, not so secret since I'm saying it here, have the goal that I want to finish my NaNoWriMo book this week. So take advantage of some of the time off to get some more writing done. I'm fairly close. Like I'm in the kind of build up to the whole final end. So I don't think it should take me too long to wrap it up. But yeah, so
That's exciting.
yeah. So do you get some time off for the holiday? Or?
Yeah, we get a little bit of time. I get Christmas Eve and Christmas off, and then New Year's Day. But it's very quiet, so I don't know that I'll be having to do a whole lot of work during the week of Christmas. But it is what it is. I'm still gonna work at least 3 of those days and save that PTO for later.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what have you been into lately? Been checking anything out that you wanted to mention or bring to the pod?
Yeah. I finished the last of the 4 currently released Steerswoman books.
Okay.
It was very, very good. If I never get another one, it's okay. Like it ended and I was happy with it. I want more, but like it was a very, very good series. Highly recommended. They're not very long. They really rip. Especially, I still think number 2, The Outskirter Secret, was my favorite. But all 4 of them are really, really good. So if you're looking for a shortish speculative fiction read, it's worth it. It's really, really worth it.
Well, I have definitely added them to my list of things to read. So
yeah, the 4th one brings back one of the characters from the first book, and I mentioned last time that book 3 was mostly just Rowan, the main character, by herself in a new environment. Didn't have Belle, who is her barbarian friend who was in the first 2 books. But she comes back at the very end of book 3. So they're back. The dynamic duo is back together. But then partway through book 4, they run into one of the people from book 1 again. And then the 3 of them are working again. And I think that's part of why it kind of feels like, okay, if this is where it ends, I'm okay with it, because it feels like these people have kind of come full circle. But boy, is there still a lot of story left to tell there that I'd love to get to.
Sure.
That would mean that Rosemary Kirstein needs to release a book for me to read, which she hasn't done in 20 years. So it is what it is.
Oh,
maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
I go to her blog, and it is her website is just a blog spot. So classic. This is a person who came up in the aughts and made their first website and is still using it.
Mm-hmm.
And she posts a couple of times a year, basically saying, things are rough out there, but I'm still writing, still working. And I'm like, are you though? Are you? It's been 20 years. I just want another book to come out in this series. But also, it's okay. I get it. If you can't finish it, you can't finish it. You gave me 4 great books. Let's see, what else have I been up to? So I have to ask you, have you gotten to the Indiana Jones game yet?
I have not, and we'll talk when I talk about gaming that I've been doing. I'll let you know why, but no, I have not yet.
Okay. I am Indiana Jones curious, but I have not played it yet.
That's about how I am. It's one of these where it's on my radar, but I certainly haven't committed to buy it or play it on. It's probably on. Is it on Xbox?
It's on Game Pass. That's the thing, is I'm like, I could just sign up for Game Pass again, because at this point I don't really turn my Xbox on except to watch Blu-rays.
Sure.
It has become a very expensive refrigerator shaped Blu-ray player. And so I've let my Xbox Game Pass lapse because I don't really use it. So why bother? I'm really tempted to sign back up so I can play that Indiana Jones game, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
I've mostly just been like trudging through the games my all the time games because I've got too many of them at this point. Infinity Nikki remains a delight. At this point, I have to craft the miracle outfit that will will wake everyone from their comas they've been trapped in. But in order to make the miracle outfit, I have to defeat all of the sovereigns who are the greatest stylists in the region. And that is taking time because I'm having to like gather materials, level up my clothes so I'm getting more, so my styling power is more powerful. And so that is taking a while. I have just now revealed the third of the 4 sovereigns. And so I'm probably going to have to take a few days leveling up some outfits so that I can go defeat the 2 lieutenants and then defeat the sovereign. But, you know, that's pretty fun. It's a fun game. I'm having a really fun time with it. Last couple of things I'll mention. Did I mention last time that I finally found a bookstore from Spain that will ship me things?
No, you did not mention that.
So there's this specific comics publisher in Spain named Arechi, and they have gotten a bunch of really great things licensed that I have been begging to have released in the States for years. But for some reason, they're not coming out here. But Arechi got the license to a few of these things, and they just finished putting out the Ryoko Ikeda book, My Dear Brother, in Spanish. So volume 3 came out like 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And so I was super excited because I've been wanting to read this book. This is a comic that came out in the 70s.
Okay.
Is really, really seminal in like really toxic relationship stuff. Like I've wanted to read this for years and years and years. But I didn't want to read some cruddy scans. Like I knew that's all I'd had available to me was cruddy scans. So I really wanted to wait until I could read like on paper a good copy of this comic. And thankfully I can read it in Spanish, a very good copy of this comic. So I was able to I found a place that will ship to the States, ship to Iowa. Cause I found this one like comic store in Spain, like a big like website, but they would only ship to like 3 states, like Tennessee, Missouri, and Florida. And I'm like, why those 3, guys?
That's odd.
I'm just north of Missouri, just said to me too. But I found this one, Casa del Libro, that would ship to me. So I got those shipped over, and I'm almost done with volume 1 of Querido, Hermano, My Dear Brother. And it is exactly what I wanted it to be. Hyper toxic kids at an all-girl school, just like treating each other terribly, abusing each other, crying, the most like luscious eyes that you've ever seen, because Ryoko Ikeda has like these enormous eyes filled with stars and sobs down the face. It's great. It's incredible to look at. I'm having a very fun time with that. And then the last thing I will mention is the last thing I really read, which I actually read in a single day this last week. And that is the novel by Aliette de Bodard, The Red Scholar's Wake. Have you heard of this book? It made a minor splash in sci-fi circles like about 2 years ago.
I recognize the author's name, but I don't recognize that book.
So I've read some other books by Aliette de Bodard before. In the early days, the early draft days of my dissertation, where it was going to be about pop culture responses to pre-Columbian and colonial societies, I was going to have like a chapter on comics, a chapter on books, a chapter on games, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when that was the plan originally, it was way too ambitious. I'm glad that my advisors talked me off that ledge, because that would have been way too ambitious of a project. But as I was like gathering potential materials for this, I came across a trilogy of books that she did that are basically murder mysteries set in like the Mexica Empire at the height of their power right before the arrival of the Spaniards, which is an interesting place to situate kind of a murder mystery situation. and this guy who's a doctor sort of person, but also is the closest thing there is to a detective. So he's the one who's trying to figure out what's happening and solve these murders that are happening in their society, in their city. So I'd read those probably a decade ago, maybe a little less than a decade ago. And then a couple of years ago, I read her book or her novella, The Tea Master and the Detective, which I'd really liked. And that is part of her like Shuya universe, which Red Scholar's Wake is also part of that. It is this like larger sci-fi universe that is basically built on like pre communist Vietnamese society. And so that is like the culture that has gone out to the stars. And so that is the kind of like cultural milieu in which these books take place, is in like a really grounded idea of what if Vietnamese society was the thing that became an intergalactic society. And The Red Scholar's Wake is the first like full-length novel in the Shuya universe. There's like a bunch of short stories and quite a few novellas, but this was the first of 2 like novels in this series. And it was really, really good. I mean, obviously I said I read it in a day.
Yeah.
And you don't read a whole book in a day unless that is really cooking. And it was really, really good. And basically the premise of the book is your 2 main protagonists. Shichi is like a scavenger who is captured by these pirates. And then Ricefish, which is the spaceship that is, because this is a universe where the spaceships are also alive. They're mind ships. They have like biological centers to them and are thinking like biological computers at the center of these spaceships. And so Ricefish, who is the consort to the Red Scholar, who is the leader of the Red Banner, one of the 5 like pirate banners in this pirate fleet, makes a deal with Shichi, this scavenger, to help her try to solve the murder of the Red Scholar, her business partner / wife, who has just been killed, she thinks, by traitorous actions by someone else in the fleet. And so the book starts with this lady marrying a spaceship in order to get the political capital necessary to solve the mystery of the previous wife's death. And it's dope. It's really, really good. I was really smitten with it. I think that it's really readable. I think that the world that it builds is very compelling. The way that the virtual and the physical interact with one another, because, you know, these spaceships have these virtual avatars that are able to interact with the world around them, whether it's like some sort of hard light situation, or there's lots of just like very small robots going everywhere that are helping to like do the things that are being done by the virtual avatars in these physical embodied situations. It was a really, really cool universe that she's built, and a really compelling story of, you know, these two people trying to solve this mystery and try to save their society, essentially. Yeah, I finished it late on Friday night, and I was like, well, let's go download the next one, because there's another book in this series. It's not about the same characters, but the second like full novel in the Shuya universe is out. I haven't started it yet. I'm reading a light little, you know, Christmas romance in between.
Sure.
But it's on deck, and I'm really excited to get to it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was good. I'd really recommend it. But that's what I've been checking out. What have you been checking out?
So I finished yesterday. I finished The Hero of Ages, the 3rd book in the original Mistborn trilogy. Again, doing a Mistborn reread because, you know, I read the original trilogy like 13, 14 years ago. And then I read the 3 books that had come out in the second Mistborn series. And I remember it had been such a long time since I'd read the original series that when I was reading in particular the 2nd and 3rd book, Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning, I just felt like there was a lot going on about some of the Kandra and certain things that had been addressed in the original trilogy that I just didn't remember. So going in to read The Lost Metal, the fourth book in that, and the final one in that kind of section, that era of the Mistborn world, I was like, oh, I need to reread these. And so it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy them, love those books. And so I finished The Hero of Ages yesterday. I mean, I think I read like 400 pages of it yesterday to finish it up because I was just like, oh no, now I'm in. I just want to finish this. Taking a little
Yeah,
break.
it's that feeling of like, I gotta get to the end of this. I just
Well,
gotta
and
push.
and then this is the problem. I don't know if I'd say the problem, but one of the things that Brandon Sanderson is well known for, I mean, there's even a term amongst his fans that they refer to as the Sanderlanche. And so he'll get to a point in a book where just so many different things and all of the different side stories are starting to progress forward in such a way that it's always like the last couple hundred pages of the book. It is a difficult place to stop reading. And so I had been reading yesterday and all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I'm in the Sanderlanche now. And so I was just like, I stayed up until almost 11 o'clock, which for me is unheard of. I am a 9:30 bedtime sort of person, but I was
Sure.
bound and determined to finish it. So finished that, taking just a teeny little break to read the Dan Morin sci-fi spy novel, The Armageddon Protocol, that came out earlier this year. It's like 350 pages. I'll probably finish it by tomorrow. And then I'm going to jump into the Wax and Wayne Mistborn series, which are a lot of fun. Sanderson takes the world of the original Mistborn trilogy, pushes it forward about 300 years. Now that the Lord Ruler has been overthrown, ruin and preservation have been dealt with, the world can actually technologically start to progress. And so it's the same magic system and everything, but now in sort of a quasi, like, at times feels a little Victorian aristocratic, but a little steampunky, and they've got guns and, like gas lamps instead of and trains and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun to go back to the same world but move forward in time about 300 years. So I'm looking forward to getting in and reading those. And then it will be to tackle Wind and Truth, the 1,316 page massive book that finishes off the first cycle of Stormlight Archive. So I've got thousands and thousands of pages ahead of me, but that's okay.
There you go.
But so
Yeah, that thing you said about the Sanderlanche is a thing that everybody else I know who reads Brandon Sanderson says the same thing. Like my friend just finished Wind and Truth and said in a Discord I'm in, classic Sanderson, starting slow, and by the end I have to read the entire back third in a single sitting.
Yep, that's pretty much how he does it. So, it's a good way to keep you turning the pages, I suppose. But some new music that I've been checking out that I think has been, I don't know if there's anything that's necessarily going to make my top end of year list, but a couple fun things. A band I was not familiar with named Eye Eater, their album Alienate. They are from New Zealand. They are similar to their country mates Ulcerate. They're kind of in that avant-garde, slightly dissonant death metal sort of wheelhouse. They're very good, and that's a good thing because if you are from New Zealand and you're going to be name dropping Ulcerate, who probably are the kings of that avant-garde dissonant death metal, you're going to have to bring your A game. And Eye Eater does a great job. Another band, Obsidian Mantra, I was not familiar with until I found their album As We All Will. They remind me a lot of Dormant Ordeal, another Polish death metal band. And so I just kind of been getting into a little bit of a Polish death metal kick lately. And then the final thing I'll mention, this had come out earlier, but I wasn't familiar with it. But there is an album, an album called Nordic Gothic by the band Cemetery Skyline. It's kind of cool. It is a super group of sorts, and often those don't work great. But you've got Michael Stana from Dark Tranquillity and the Halo Effect on lead vocals, doing all clean singing. The guitarist, I'm blanking his name, but he's the lead guitarist of both Omnium Gatherum and Insomnium, which are two melodic death metal bands. The drummer, I think, is from Borknagar. Anyway, it's all a bunch of like Scandinavian melodic death metal bands and stuff who are coming together and making a gothic rock album. So it is not metal. It's very sort of gothic. It's like if Typo Negative was a little less dark and a little more poppy. So it's kind of fun. I've been really digging it the last little bit. And then the final thing I'll mention is anytime Frontier drops a new album, I'm going to mention these Scots because they're insane. Their new EP, The Skull Burned Wearing Hell Like a Life Vest as the Night Wept, is in typical Frontier absolute chaos and insanity. It is a type of music that it's fun to put on, both because I enjoy it and also because if anybody else listens to it, you can kind of see it breaking their brain a little bit. It really is just pure chaos, sonic chaos. And so it was good. I'm enjoying it. Eden, I'm pissed off. So
Hold on.
I finished Cyberpunk 2077 finally.
Good for you.
Finally did it. Made myself do it.
Good for you.
Will, now that I have officially completed the game, will stand by everything I think we have said, both on the pod and to each other over this last year since I finally got around to playing it. High watermark in terms of video games. Like, needs to go down
Real
as
good video game.
Needs to go down, in my opinion, as one of the all-time great video games that has ever been made, especially the writing, the complex nature of the world, the characters, the story, the difficult decisions that it makes you ask, the fact that it never, as much as I enjoy BioWare games, they often tend to give you that option to be just a complete goody two-shoes, which, while can be fun in a game, and is often what I end up doing in a game, is obviously not very realistic. And there is nothing like that whatsoever in Cyberpunk 2077. So many of the decisions and the choices you make, you're just like, these all suck. This is a shitty situation to be in, and I'm just going to go
constantly.
Yeah, really. And but still, just very mature, not in the kind of puerile sense of the term mature, but a very adult game in that it puts you in difficult situations and asks you to make hard choices. And great game. So I finally finished that, and I think to myself, what do you want to play? And you know what I thought I wanted to play? I wanted to play some damn Dragon Age. So I was excited. So I get Dragon Age the Veilguard going. I watch, and by watch I mean I skip through an hour and 20-something minute video recapping Dragon Age. I basically skipped through I started going through it, and I started skipping everything that was a book or a comic or whatever, and I was like, just tell me what's in the games. Then I come to realize
that can't actually matter.
Well, then I come to realize that there are whole expansions, especially to Inquisition, that I'm sure I have that I never frickin' played.
You never played Trespasser, which is the actual end of Inquisition.
Yeah, no, I definitely never did. Because I remember playing Jaws of Hakan or whatever, and running through some forests, and these like land crab type things kept coming up and attacking me, and they were taking too long to like it just felt like I should have been defeating these a lot quicker than I was, and I got frustrated and I stopped playing. Anyway, I fire up Dragon Age the Veilguard, and I'm enjoying it. And I get to the point where, not very far in, I am interrupting Solus's ritual, and all of a sudden it freezes.
Sure. Oh, no.
And then my computer reboots.
No me digas.
And I'm like, what is going on? And so as soon as it reboots, I go in and I pull up a couple things that are monitoring temperatures and stuff. Because, it's interesting. It's a demanding game graphically, but it actually is, it's a very cartoony sort of game. In terms of aesthetics,
Yeah.
You know what game it reminded me a lot of? Reminded me a hell of a lot of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Anyway, but I know that it has high system requirements, so I pull up a resource monitor thing, and I'm looking at the temperatures of my CPU and my memory and my video card and everything's sitting between like 30 to 51 degrees Celsius, so nothing's too hot there at all. Nothing, like I'd never heard the fans cranking up real high like they were on, so I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I make sure that everything is like, I'm Google searching, and everybody, all the few Google searches I can find are like, oh, this is a hardware problem. This is a hardware problem. This is a hardware problem. And I'm like, it's like, oh, turn the settings down from ultra if they're on that, turn this off and everything, because it's just asking your video card to do too much. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, bitch, I just finished Cyberpunk 2077 with Cyberpunk settings at ultra. everything on max, ray tracing on. And I'm sorry, Cyberpunk is way more graphically demanding game than Dragon Age. And, you know, just for fun, I did the benchmark thing in Cyberpunk when I had everything set at ultra just to make sure. And I'm still getting like between 115 and 130 FPS with everything at ultra and the ray trace. And so I'm like, there's no, and if like I could play Cyberpunk just fine for extended sessions without anything happening, I'm like, this is not an overheating problem. This is not asking too much of my hardware. So I see there's a new version of the BIOS for my motherboard. So I install that. And I tell you what, I cannot get it to play. I play for about 20 minutes and then it will just, it freezes. And then it's like it crashes to reboot and reboots the computer. And I cannot figure out what it is, and I cannot find anything online. And I even tried using like ChatGPT search, so throwing in some AI with the search function so it can access, you know, the internet and everything. I don't know what it is. So I did install it on my ROG Ally X because the new version of the Asus tweaked AMD drivers came out that have AFMF2. So it makes it more smooth, so I could turn it down to low, and I can play it, but I kind of don't want to because I'm like, why am I playing it on low on a 7-inch screen when I should be able to play it on ultra on a 32-inch monitor? So I'm having a hard time right now. I don't know what game to play. I started Star Wars Outlaws. It's fun, but it hasn't grabbed me yet. I had seen some YouTube video that was talking about like AA games a while back, you know, the ones that sometimes it's easy to miss. And there was some Unity game called Sir Whoop-Ass. And I started playing it because they had said, oh, it's real funny, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like going, well, now I know, don't trust that YouTuber ever again because it's funny in the way that like, I'm sure like a 5-year-old or a 3rd grader will think it's funny, but it's just dumb. And so I don't know. I'm frustrated because the game that I wanted to play and the game that mentally I had got myself into the headspace to put a fair bit of time in this coming week, now that I have time off, my computer and it don't like each other. And then there's a part of me that's like, well, I'll just go and play it on my Xbox. But I don't know. The Xbox is down in the basement and it's, you know, I have my nice office and everything. So I just would rather play the game up here. So I don't know what I want to play. I want to play a game, but I don't know what. And I'm frustrated about that.
May I recommend
Sure.
Infinity? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah,
you don't need to play Infinity, Nikki.
That's going to be a hard pass. But before we get into our main topic of the week, I have a question for you, Eden.
Hit me.
Did you watch the Superman trailer?
You know, I did. And I thought to myself, will there never be another good Superman movie?
Do explain, because here's my reaction. It started out and I was like, okay, I'm kind of liking this. And then it just felt like there was way too much bullshit going on. Like, then all of a sudden,
that's exactly how I felt about it.
There's another character and another character and another character and another character. And I'm like, no, why? Why are you doing this to us? Like, so I was very... It jerked me around because for like the first 60 seconds, I was like getting excited. And then so much started getting thrown in that I was just like, I guess I'm back out again.
See, I laughed when they decided to start the trailer with Superman in the Yamcha pose from Dragon Ball Z. Of just him like in a crater, like that is the Yamcha pose. Whenever you see that, just like when you see the Akira slide on a bike, you're like, oh yeah, homage to Akira. You see someone in a crater like that, you're like, oh, homage to Yamcha dying in Dragon Ball Z. Hell yeah. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're cooking. And then the trailer started and I was like, no, I don't think they're cooking. And then the dog showed up and I was like, maybe? And then all that other bullshit appeared. And then Mr. Terrific was there. Do you know who Mr. Terrific is, Peter?
Nope, I don't.
He's that dude with a big T on his face. Did you see Metamorpho is in this trailer?
You know, that was the problem, is there were all these things that were showing up, and that's when my brain just started checking out and I lost interest. So I didn't even pay attention to who all these other jackwagons were.
Metamorpho is in this trailer. What? You're putting Metamorpho in your movie?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Like, Nathan Fillion is there as Guy Gardner and looks like dog shit.
Yes.
He looks terrible. And like, should Guy Gardner look terrible? Yes, he should. He's the worst Green Lantern by a country mile. And I'm sure that is how they're playing him in this movie, is that like, here's the worst Green Lantern ever, guys. But yeah, it looks like a mess. It looks like a real mess and a third movie, not a first movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I know that like it was originally going to be called Superman Legacy. So you're like, okay, we're going to be hitting in media res here. It's not going to be Superman Begins. They've just changed the title again. Apparently it's just Superman now, which like, okay. But like, it sure feels like it should be Superman Legacy, aka the third movie in a trilogy of Superman movies, because you need to give me some goddamn setup for who all these people are and why I should care.
Right.
Does he look like a fine Superman? Sure. The curls there, it's cute. He looks like an absolute mess of a person when he's in his Clark Kent persona. Love that.
Yep.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is there as Lois Lane, and I'm like, okay, let's go. His dad is not Kevin Costner this time, so that's automatically pluses in its favor.
It is.
And then I saw the rest of the trailer, and I was like, Hawk Girl is in this movie, guys. Hawk Girl?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm not excited about it. It looks like terrible. And to be fair, I do not hold James Gunn in the high regard that many comic book fans apparently hold James Gunn.
Yeah, me either.
Guardians 1, it's fine. It's good. It's one of the better, definitely top third Marvel movie.
Sure.
Guardians 2 sucked so bad that I've still never seen Guardians 3, even though everyone says it's the best one, because Guardians 2 sucked so bad.
See, I don't know if I'd say Guardians 3 is the best. I would say Guardians 3 is much better than 2.
I mean, that's not hard. Guardians 2 was so terrible. It was, I'm a terrible human, daddy issues to the max, and if you treat women poorly, they love you anyway, the movie. So it's like, fuck this. I don't want to watch this. And like, people say his Suicide Squad movie was good, but I'll never care about the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
people say his Peacemaker show is good, and I will never care about Peacemaker, no matter how much fun it looks like John Cena is having in that show. I'm happy for you, John Cena. Go make the movie or the show you want to make. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
So when he took over as the head of DC's like cinematic line, I was like, I don't know. And everyone was like glazing him. And I was like, I don't know, guys. And then I saw this trailer and I was like, I think I may be right here. I think I may be right.
Yeah, I haven't been too excited. Again, I don't have much experience with James Gunn other than really the Guardians things, which, like you said, liked the first one quite a bit, disliked the second one so much that I've truly only ever seen it one time and have zero desire to watch it again. And then enjoyed the third well enough when I went to go see it in the theaters, but at the same time will say, have never had any desire to rewatch the third movie. And so I was just like, okay, whatever. I wasn't interested in the DC stuff because of the Snyderverse just being a poop stain all over the place. And I don't know. This trailer, there were moments where I was like, okay. And then as it went on more and more, I was like, I still don't think this is for me. So.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The first time I've cared about, I liked that first Wonder Woman, kind of against all odds.
Sure.
That first Wonder Woman is a pretty good movie, but I haven't liked a DC movie since then, with one bright, beautiful exception. And that is emo Arpats with the running mascara down his face, sad because Alfred was exploded. Like, that was like, Batman! Like, that's great. You still haven't seen that, right?
I still haven't watched because it's just too long. Like, every time I think about it.
It is too long.
Every time I think about it.
Maybe split it up over a couple of nights, but like, it's the most fun that I've had in a Batman movie since Batman and Robin. And so like, it is dark and moody, but it's also extremely goofy and campy at times, and like just works in a way that I never thought it would. So make more of those. Do that again. What are we doing with this mess multiverse? Not even a multiverse. Why is Guy Gardner in the first Superman movie you're making? What
Yeah.
are you doing?
Who knows?
So anyway,
Well,
it is what it is.
Let's talk about a different movie.
A surprisingly, oops, maybe this is actually a pretty good movie.
So that's right, folks. We are back for more Matrix. This week, we watched The Matrix Revolutions, the third and originally final movie in the Matrix series. So tell me, Eden, having watched now The Matrix Reloaded, and now The Matrix Revolutions, what do you think about The Matrix Revolutions?
Is it the weakest in the trilogy? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Is that still better than basically every Marvel movie I've ever seen? Yes. Here's the thing. Here is the thing about that you need to know going into Matrix Revolutions. It is that back third of the Marvel movie where it really gets bad for 2 hours, but works okay regardless. Is
right.
there, like, I read a bunch of like reviews and reactions from people. Is it a little too action heavy? Absolutely. Could you have excised large portions of the defense of Zion? Perhaps. And again, is it the weakest of the three? Yes. Incontrovertibly so. But I had a really good time watching it anyway.
Yeah.
How did you find it?
You know, the movie ended and I thought to myself, now that there was a movie. Not like cinema, and it was not bad, but it was just like it was a movie. That was a like, give me the popcorn and the soda and give me a chair to sit back in and turn my brain off and just have this wash over me. That kind of movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I agree, it is the weakest of the three. And I agree, the whole battle for Zion thing is longer than it needs to be. But at the same time, the whole time that battle was happening, was I like tense and like just like leaning forward? What? You better damn well believe I was. Abso-friggin-lutely. Yeah. It was a fun movie. It's not necessarily a great movie, but it is definitely not a bad movie. But it was a fun movie. Like, I had a crap ton of fun watching these three movies.
It's just just movies. Like you said, it's the like most like popcorn happy. I'm just watching it and letting it wash over me and becoming at one with the seat and like experiencing the cinema without it being like, you know, the big fancy pants, you know, think piece or anything. You don't have to think during this movie. It's pretty dumb. Oh, how does Neo win? In a pretty dumb way, but it works. It works anyway. And you watch it and you have a fun time. And like you said, I think there's some really strong performances, especially some strong performances under duress. Like the fact that they had to recast the Oracle because she died in between shooting her scenes in 2 and 3. And so then they're like, well, we got to recast her. We got to write a few more lines to throw in here about why does she look different?
Yep.
And that like kind of reframes the way that the third movie works, I think, almost unintentionally. And because it feels like a different kind of movie than we saw in the first two.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's doing different things, because it's focused so much more on the physical rather than the digital, because it's focused so much more on the big spectacle rather than the cerebral. I found it really compelling, even though I do think it's the weakest.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to go through a real quick plot summary again. Spoilers for people who haven't seen this 21-year-old movie. It begins immediately after The Matrix Reloaded. Neo is in a coma. His consciousness is trapped in the train station. It's this place between the Matrix and the machine world. Agent Smith has, again possessed the body of Bane in the real world, who is also in a coma. And they're trying to figure out what's going on with the two of these. Trinity and Morpheus journey to try and help reclaim Neo with the help of the program, the Train Man, who works for the Merovingian. They have a confrontation. They're able to rescue Neo. The Oracle reveals to Neo that Agent Smith has now become an existential threat to everything, machines and humans. He's basically spreading like a virus throughout the Matrix, assimilating everyone in his path. We go back to the real world. We've got Zion, the last human city. The population is preparing for this massive assault by the machines. They've got these armored mechs that they call APUs. They've got them all set up. They've got infantry. Locke orchestrates this defense. He disagrees with Morpheus's belief in Neo's importance. Now, we've got out there, we had the Neo and his group, and then I can't remember the other captain who finds them. That whole group, and then out there is Niobe, and Niobe, her ship is powered down, so they find her, they power her up, and then we've got two ships, and so they've got two EMPs, and so they're getting ready to head back. When Neo he becomes convinced that he has to go to the Machine City itself to broker peace. So Trinity says she's going to accompany him. They're trying to figure out which ship to take because the one they're in, they say the captain's like, no way. Finally, Niobe's like, you can take mine. And then she's going to pilot back because they figure out the best way and the fastest way to get there is through a certain set of tunnels that nobody except Niobe is good enough of a captain to get through. So Neo and Trinity, they take their ship. In the ship, we see in the one ship, Bane, a.k.a. Agent Smith, and I think this was one of my big complaints about this, is the actor who is playing Bane, they have him do such a spot-on Agent Smith, like, Hugo Weaving impersonation when he is talking, with the tone, the cadence, the word choices, and everything, that the fact that everybody else seems to just not ignore that this dude is completely different than how he was earlier is a little bit of a difficult in suspending my disbelief. But I digress. He kills the kind of doctor type lady, and then all of a sudden they come to find out he's not on their ship anymore. He's now on the ship with Trinity and Neo. They take the trip. They're moving towards the Machine City. There's a whole fight where the Bane character, fights with Trinity and then fights with Neo, and in the process he zaps Neo's face and his eyes get burned, and so now Neo is blind. Neo figures out finally that this is Smith, defeats Bane, and then they keep moving towards the Machine City. In Zion, the machines breach the dome. A huge battle ensues. They're getting overwhelmed by Sentinels. We get a few people, there's a couple folks running around trying to take out the drills and stuff like that. Finally, against all odds, Niobe, Morpheus, they arrive and fire off their EMP. Seems like, okay, maybe they're going to be in good shape. Oh no, more Sentinels start coming. Neo finally makes it to the Machine City after there's this one cool scene, and I liked that actually quite a bit, where everything's dark and brooding, and they fly up and over all of the things that are getting sent towards them, and they kind of come out of the clouds and they see the sun and the blue sky. Well, Trinity does, because Neo can't, I think, at this point. I think he's been blinded at this point. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's blind at that point.
Then they get back down. They get to the Machine City. As they kind of crash into the Machine City, Trinity gets mortally wounded. She's got a bunch of what looks like just big rebar or something going through her as they crashed. She and Neo kiss. She dies. Neo goes out, and in the machine leader is kind of this massive face made up of a bunch of smaller machines. Neo strikes a bargain. He's going to deal with Smith in exchange for peace. So the machines agree. Neo goes back into the Matrix for this final confrontation, Smith has now copied himself to almost everyone in the Matrix. It's all just a bunch of Smiths standing around watching in this rain-soaked battle, this big, fight. Neo understands that to win, he has to sacrifice himself. Smith assimilates him, but this connection to Neo, who again is connected to the source through the machines, all of a sudden Smith's copies are destroyed, and boom, the Matrix reboots. The machines kind of had calmed down, stopped attacking the people when Neo went into the Matrix. Now they all start flying up out of Zion. And they honor their agreement. A peace is established. Humans are given a choice about whether they remain in the Matrix or they leave. And the movie basically ends with the Oracle and the Architect meeting, where the Oracle expresses a hope that the peace will last. It ends with a new view of the Matrix, more colorful, suggesting this. I'm reading from this part because I had to look this part up because I was like, how am I going to describe this? Suggesting a more harmonious system where humans and machines coexist, albeit tentatively. Anyway, so that's how it ends, with a super hypercolor sunrise that the Oracle sitting in a park and the Architect turning and walking away, and Neo is gone and Trinity's dead, but Morpheus and the rest of the humans back in Zion are still around.
We don't get a Rage song this time.
We don't, and
it wouldn't have fit the tone.
It wouldn't.
If it had suddenly been Zach De La Rocha being like, "Kill every CEO of every health insurance company," we would have been like, "Zach, you're right, Luigi, thank you," but it wouldn't have fit the tone. It wouldn't have fit the tone.
No, it was. I wondered that as it was wrapping up, and I knew that the credits were getting ready to go. I thought to myself, are we going to get a Rage song? And we didn't. No. And I thought that was the right choice.
It is the right choice.
Instead, we get a very swelling, victorious orchestral movie soundtrack type song.
What you get is this movie's Duel of the Fates, baby.
Yes.
Which was cool every time it showed up earlier in the movie. No, I liked this movie a lot. Did it dwell on some characters I didn't really care about? Okay, so first off, I love a mech. Obviously, you put a mech in front of me, we're cool. Why does Western media have the ugliest mechs I've ever seen in my life?
It feels to me like they're all still just basing themselves off the power mover thing from Aliens.
That's gotta be it, because do you remember the old 90s TV show Exo Squad? Their outfits also all sort of kind of looked like this, and obviously in BattleTech they have more actual cockpits than they do the kind of exposed cockpit that you see in the battle or in the loader in Aliens or in the APUs here. But they're just ugly and blocky.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I like a mech regardless, but have you seen what a Gundam looks like, ladies and gentlemen? Have you maybe seen EVA Unit 1? Have you seen Razefon? It's got wings on its head. You could do something cooler.
That's true.
Do something cool. But regardless, they are pretty dope. And the way that they have to be controlled by multiple different sticks, because one is for the guns and one is for the legs, was very cool. I liked watching them motate. Did I care about the guy who was I'm the leader of this unit, and they hyped him up, and then he made a heroic last stand? I'm I don't care. I don't know this man. Who is this
right?
man?
Yeah.
Why should I care about this man? But it is cool when he sacrifices himself, and then the kid gets into the cockpit, and then Link's wife and him save the day. That's cool. Yep. That's really cool. I thought that the chase scene through the mechanical tunnels was really riveting. I felt like Jada Pinkett Smith was in the other movie, but I don't feel like she did anything in Matrix Reloaded. I was like, why'd you cast Jada Pinkett Smith? And it's because she's cool when she's driving shit. Because in Matrix Revolution, she's cool as she is piloting that thing. That was really fun. Like you said, props to whatever that man's name is.
The guy
Ian
who plays Bane.
Bliss.
Yes.
Props to this man, because he embodied the weird freak Hugo Weaving so well.
Oh my gosh.
He
so well.
The mannerisms, the cadence of speech was almost perfect. It was uncanny.
Yeah.
If you had told me that they dubbed Weaving over what that guy was actually saying, I'd be like, that's a really good dub. I'm surprised it's that clean.
Right?
But no, he just does it. And apparently that's how they cast him. Apparently they were like, Hugo Weaving impersonators, please audition for our movie. Okay. And he did, and he owned
nails
it. He really killed it.
Nails it.
Yeah, it's it's really interesting when he and Neo get in their fight and like he blinds Neo, but then that opens Neo's eyes. There's so much goofy, like surface level, I am in my remedial philosophy class shit going through all these movies. And I feel like this is maybe the time where it is the most like, this isn't even philosophy 101. This is like remedial philosophy where like, oh, he's blinded, but that means now he can see. And it's like, okay, all right. Is it cool? Yeah, it's cool. It's real cool when he can now see like weird yellow energy shit instead of seeing the green of the Matrix because he's been blinded. It's still goofy. It's real goofy.
It is.
It just moves with a clip, and like that's not true. There's one time in this movie where I feel like there's a moment to breathe. And that is, sadly, as Trinity is dying. And like, I felt like that scene was really affecting. It made me tear up a little bit as she is explaining to him, you know, do you remember the last thing I said? Do you remember what I said to you as I died? Last time this happened to us, babe. I said I was sorry. Mm-hmm. And that sucks. That's a terrible thing for me to say right before I die. So I'm going to say it right this time. I love you, babe. Mm-hmm. Kiss me, baby. And it's just like, oh, this is beautiful. It's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that scene was actually, I thought it was a very powerful scene, and I thought it was done well.
Yeah.
And it didn't
And again, their chemistry is so good. Those two people, I mean, Keanu Reeves has a stupid looking bandana on to cover his weird scar face. Like, and they still sells it.
Yeah.
With just only seeing from like cheeks down, he still sells that he is so in love with this woman and so heartbroken that she's gone and there's nothing he can't fix it this time. Yeah. There's nothing he can do this time. All he can do is keep moving forward.
Yeah. I thought that the end of both Trinity and Neo was appropriate. I don't know what happens in the fourth movie. We're going to find out.
I was just going to say, my biggest question is, how the fuck these people alive again?
Correct. But, you know, I thought that was a pretty decent ending for both of them. I think that the whole thing with literally what is referred to as the Deus Ex Machina, the machine, that whole thing is a little goofy, but at the same time, this is a story where I actually think it would have been weaker had Neo and Trinity shown back up in Zion.
Oh, like if they had survived, it would not have the juice that it has.
Correct.
Like, I mean, I don't know if we have talked about this on the pod or if it's just, or if I've had this conversation with a gajillion of people. Fuck Harry Potter, always, forever. J.K. Rowling, terrible yes. human being,
Agreed.
Hater guts. But also, that seventh book sucks because she doesn't pull the trigger. She sets up earlier, this boy toast. This boy gonna die. And then she refuses to follow through on the logical endpoint of the whole series she had built to that point. And stupid Harry Potter is alive and becomes a stupid cop at the end.
Uh-huh.
The boy needed to die. And if she'd have had the guts to kill her main character, I'd have been like, well, you're still a terrible human being who I'll never respect ever in my life, but
at least you had the guts.
That. They had the guts to kill him, and that was the right thing to do. Now, there's a fourth movie, and they are apparently alive again, and we'll see. The only thing I know about the Matrix Resurrections is that it is Lana Wachowski giving the largest middle finger she's ever given to Warner Brothers in her life to say, sequels suck and I hate you.
Yes, that's what I'd heard.
Get a person to make a sequel to her own movie that is sequels suck and I hate you, I'm interested. I can't wait to see this fourth one. I gotta find out what happens.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Anything else that you want to bring up with this movie?
Okay. Here is the thing. I wanted to bring this up with you because I'm curious about your thoughts about this. I had a supposition. I had a thought as I was watching, and then I talked through it with my wife, and she had some counterpoints that made me rethink my thoughts, but I'm curious to talk this through with you.
Okay.
We're thinking of this as a trilogy. Yes, there's a fourth one. Don't worry about it. We're not going to think about it. it feels like the rule for trilogies, unfortunately, is with like, I found one, Cassie found a second exception. The threequel's always the worst part. So
I
let's
think that's
think of some
often. I think that
trilogies.
that's often the case. But yeah, let's
I think
talk
it's
this through.
nearly always the case.
Let's talk this through.
So, Lord of the Rings, concurrent with these films, basically. Return of the King is the weakest by a country mile. Did it win Best Picture? Yes. Was that a pity give because Fellowship should have won because it's the best of them? Yes.
Agreed.
Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I mean, no question.
We can disagree whether or not Empire or Star Wars Star Wars is the better of those two. Like, that is, I can see points on either side. Ain't nobody coming out here telling me Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars movie of that trilogy.
Absolutely not.
Obviously, Godfather Part 3 is a mess.
I have heard. I have not seen it.
The Nolan's trilogy of Batman movies.
Oh yeah, no question.
Again, I think Batman Begins is the best of the three. You could make a case for The Dark Knight, but Dark Knight Rises sucks, and we all know it. Everyone knows, hey, this movie was supposed to be a better movie with Heath Ledger in it, but it's not because the guy died, so now we got this garbage. The one exception that I came up with is the prequel trilogy, because Revenge of the Sith is the best of those, baby.
I mean,
you're saying, yeah, that's like saying this pile of poop is better than these other two piles.
I mean,
I will defend Revenge of the Sith.
So what I was going to go with is I was going to say something like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather watch Revenge of the Sith than either of the other two. Just like I'd rather have gonorrhea than HIV or syphilis.
Look, when's the last time you watched Revenge of the Sith? It's good. It's better than either of It is better than either of J.J. Abrams' Star Wars movies. It is the third best Star Wars movie. And that is my fourth best Star Wars movie.
I was going to say
it is the fourth best Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but
because it goes Star Wars, Empire, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith.
And see, for me, it's Empire, Star Wars, Rogue One, and I'll give you Revenge of the Sith in the fourth spot. But again, for me, it's like the difference between, I don't know. I hate Revenge of the Sith. I would agree that it is by far the best of all six of the non-original trilogy movies that are mainline Star Wars movies. There's no question. The sequels, while easy to watch and have less stilted dialogue, so they're less like grating on my ears, are so devoid of any depth, any coherence, anything of any meaning. They are the emptiest of empty calories. And the prequel,
J.J. Abrams, not a good director.
No, agreed. And the prequel trilogy, and this is kind of because I've had this conversation many times with my older son, Alex, because he is a diehard Star Wars fan and he loves Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is his favorite movie of all the Star Wars movies.
Hell yeah, Alex.
And part of the reason, and he brings up a very good point, part of the reason he loves that so much is because, according to him, I cannot speak for myself, I have not seen them, but he says that it is the continuation and like the conclusion of this relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan that is developed all through the Clone Wars series that he really enjoys and all that stuff. So for him, I think that's part of the reason that he likes it as much. So I saw it he would watch that movie often and I would see it. And I haven't sat down to watch it because I hate the prequel trilogy so much. I can't do that to myself. But
that's fair.
Again, I will agree with I will 100% agree with you. It is the fourth best Star Wars movie. So yes, in that case, if we think the prequel trilogy, you're not wrong. It is by a country mile the better of the first three movies.
The best of those three.
Yes.
The only other one Cassie mentioned as a potential breaker of the threequel curse, Toy Story 3 is arguably the strongest of that original three Toy Story movies.
Okay. Yep. I think that Toy Story 3 is a very good movie.
But other than that, I'm going through this list. Back to the Future 3, obviously the worst, but all three of those movies suck. Don't get me started. I hate those movies.
See, and I guess I would say I like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade far, far better than Temple of Doom.
Oh, that was one of the other ones that we found out. Temple of Doom is the weakest there.
Yeah.
That is another breaker. Looking at this list, Army of Darkness is weakest of the Evil Dead movies. It's not good. World's End is the worst of the Cornetto trilogy movies by quite a bit. Captain America Civil War is the worst Captain America movie. Who we kidding out here?
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway.
No, there's no question
interesting
that
to think about.
Well, and
oh, here's a good exception, because these people said this is a trilogy. I would not consider this a trilogy. X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and Logan. Sure, yeah, then Logan's the best one.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Somebody's stretching
consider
there.
that a trilogy. That's a stretch.
Somebody's stretching really far there. I mean, go back. The original 3 X-Men movies, X3 is by far the worst.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like Apocalypse was the third of that first class, and Dark Phoenix was just this afterthought that got shitted out. So again,
and Apocalypse is the worst.
Apocalypse is by far the worst of those.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is the worst.
Yeah. No, you're right. Now, here's a thought. And I'm going to say this with listener, please understand that this is very, very limited experience. Very limited. I cannot put enough caveats on this. But as someone who has now almost written 3 books, I will tell you, the first third of the book, once you get the idea and you're building the world and you're setting everything up, pretty easy to write. The middle third, where you're really stacking up all those, building all the conflicts and stuff, pretty easy to write. But I have struggled mightily with the ending of my previous 2 books. I think this book's going to be a little better because I actually wrote out exactly what the ending was going to be before I started the rest of the book. So I knew what I was building towards in an effort to overcome this. But there is no question in my mind that, especially in that trilogy, or if we want to think of trilogies as extended 3-act structures, that 3rd act, for me at least, I have found to be the most difficult to satisfactorily complete. And I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that this is why, but I'm saying from that little bit of limited experience, I can look at this and go, yeah, it is hard to, it is comparatively easy to establish a world and then to establish the conflict. But like in a good way, wrapping both of those things up for me has been exceedingly more difficult. And I wonder if that's part of the problem.
Yeah, it turns out climaxes are hard. And so when it is a huge... and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on a trilogy capper for the exact reason that you're talking about. Because like this is like the climax and denouement to not 1 film, but really 3 films.
Yeah. And
therefore you have to really like tie things together. And often that becomes a mess. Yeah. Often that means Nien Nyob is the co-pilot to the Millennium Falcon. What? What is Nien Nyob doing there? What are we doing, guys? Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
weakest of the 3, Matrix Revolutions, or Revolutions? Resurrection's the next one. Revolution's this one. I still had a great time. Turns out these Wachowskis know how to make movies.
They do. And like I say, one of the things that got us into this was my desire to watch them, having heard so many bad things about the 2nd and 3rd movie, and agreed.
They're both so much better than the cultural understanding of them.
Oh, so much better. So much better. So, I'm really glad we did this. And now I am fascinated to see how they bring this back and to really see how does she flip off Warner Brothers with this 4th movie? I'm excited to find that out.
I'm really eager.
I am too.
And it makes me, and here's the gross part, it makes me want to rewatch Jupiter Ascending. I remember not liking that movie. What if it's actually good? What if I was just not in the right place in 2015 to understand Mila Kunis kissing a dog boy who flies?
You know, it's one of those movies that intrigued me. I wanted to watch it. Um, I, I never did. So I
I
don't
might
know.
revisit it. If I do, I'll let you know how it is.
Think about it. Yeah, let me know. Let me know, because I might be willing to. I don't know that. I could see myself being convinced to hop on that train with you.
I'll let you know.
All right. Well, anything else before we wrap this up?
No. Keep making movies, the Wachowskis. I know they're working separately now. I know
Yeah.
that post Sense8, they're doing different stuff now, and that's fine. Just keep making weird stuff, please.
Yeah, and again, I'm just going to go out and say this: that 20 plus years down the road, these two Matrix sequels are a hell of a lot better than the general consensus. At least made me believe they were. So.
And I assure you that they're sadly better looking than whatever other action movie you went to see that came out this year.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was nice there. I didn't notice really any of the weird bendy, floaty stuff in this one that was like a real problem in the second one. And there aren't
Yeah, there
any
was
of
a
this.
lot less
There's
of
not the
it.
same kind of fights and stuff, but yeah. So, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up then. We'll wish everyone a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, whatever you're choosing to celebrate. We'll be back in another couple of weeks to finish out the current Matrix movies. And because who knows? I mean, they made Matrix Resurrection, so maybe something else will pop up down the road. I don't know. I don't know.
One can only hope.
But until then, if there's any feedback, reach out to us, feedback@themiddleofculture.com. Please subscribe, share, leave us a star rating, leave us a review. And, other than that, we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Talk to you then.